We're going to be working on our Chapter 16 exercises in this video. And I'm going to jump over to our course shell real quick and just take a look at the ones that we need to complete. We're going to start with 16.1. Okay, with 16.1, it tells you right off the bat, use radio buttons, and basically this is what we're going to be creating. It says, write a GUI program as shown. You can use buttons to move the message to the left and right, and use radio buttons to change the color for the message displayed. So this is actually a pretty easy one in terms of the conception of what we're doing. And we have a lot of stuff that we're going to need to add to the program. I've begun by opening up Eclipse, and I created a new project. I just went new Java project, entitled it Chapter 16. And now I'm going to add my first class file here inside the source folder. And we're going to name this exercise 16_1. We'll throw that main method in there and click finish. As is typical for our graphical application, we're going to say extends application. Of course, we need to pull in the library. May as well take care of the simple stuff first, like getting the launch args in there. Of course, we should probably copy some of our work from before just so we don't have to type stuff. And the stuff I'm thinking of in particular is this. Not that it's all that difficult to type, but just get that part out of the way. And then I'm also going to grab these particular things. Once again, this is our pattern of development. You guys are probably getting comfortable with it now, I would assume. And of course, these items here are going to be arbitrary. I'm not sure if I'm going to use a pane, but I'm guessing probably. That's my thought. I mean, if you look at what we're creating here, I don't anticipate that we would, well, you know, I could kind of say a couple different things here. We could do this in sections. All right, so here's an example, because I know you guys often have questions about how are we putting the panes together, right? It's like, why do I use one or why don't I use another? But when I look at these radio buttons, to me, I think this screams HBox, right? Could we probably agree that it's the same thing with the bottom? What about the middle part? That could be an HBox. That could be a regular pane. Well, keep this in mind. An HBox is a type of pane. Okay? So here's where some of the confusion will come in. We also have the construct of border pane, and if you think of how border panes are laid out, they actually have like a top region, bottom region, side regions, and a center region, right? That actually might work pretty well too. In fact, what might be a really good approach is to actually use a border pane as the global structure, and then use an HBox inside area, the top area, maybe one on the bottom area. We might not need the left and the right sections, but we certainly will need the center section. Does that make sense? You know, knowing that, that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually start by building a border pane. And the reason I'm doing that is just so that I don't forget to do it partially. All right, and well, you know, it would be smart before I'm adding it there. It'd probably be smart to actually create it up here somewhere. So I'm just going to say border pane, and what should we call it? B pane. Border. Yeah, let's just call it B pane. Equals new border pane. And then down here, I'll just call this B pane. Now, I don't think we need something 500 by 500, so you know what? We'll worry about that last. That's not a big deal. We'll see how it comes up, and then we'll tweak the numbers and guess at it. All right. Clearly, I need to add the library for this, so I'm cursor at the end of border pane, control space to invoke the tool. Okay, libraries are added. Oh, what am I missing here, guys? Why is that underlining? Very good. See, you guys are learning. All right, so the border pane is going to be the global structure that I'm using. All right, the border pane, remember, has a top, a center, a bottom, a left, and a right. One thing you should know about it is you don't have to use all those areas. Just because we have a left and a right. Yeah, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so that's a good question. Generally, I would say yes. Yes, basically it will. I mean, it'll somewhat dynamically adjust to the size of the things that sit within it. And that's kind of the approach I'm going to take. But from what I see of this shape that we're trying to replicate, I see this as, this could be the top and the bottom clearly, and this could just be the center. I don't see a need for a left and a right. I mean, I could still put them in, but I have nothing to put in them. I suppose we could put some ads on the side, generate a little revenue. All right, I'm going to set up some other constructs, and I'm thinking in the top section of the border pane, I'm going to put an H box for the radio buttons. And I'm probably going to do the same thing for the bottom where the buttons are. So I'll do an H box for the radio buttons, an H box for the buttons. So because I'm thinking structurally, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build those while I have them fresh in my head. So for example, let's do this. H box, and what should we call it? H box, yeah, but which buttons? Radio? Yeah. I'm just trying to think of what's a good name for it. So, RB box? RBH box? That works, right? New H box. And I'm not doing that right. What am I doing wrong here? It should be a capital B. Okay, so one for the radio buttons. And let's get that library pulled in right away so I don't forget to do it. And then I'm also going to do an H box for, H box radio buttons, and how about regular buttons? BTN H box, how about that? I'm not coming up with clever names tonight. And I'm also hitting my cap lock key there. All right, one for radio buttons, one for the buttons at the bottom. An additional thing that I'm thinking of is for the center section of the border pane, I'm going to feed in the text. So I'm going to create another construct for that, and that I'm just going to call a pane. Well, just because that's what I feel like. So let's just call that one text pane. And I'm not following my proper camel casing here, but oh well. And once again, let's add the library. All right. So I kind of have these laid out in sections, and I'm doing this by intent, because what I'm thinking is with whatever I do with the border pane, which is going to be like the master construct that's going to hold stuff, I'm going to feed in these three things. So I kind of have like, see what I'm doing is I'm building a skeleton. Instead of like working on like building the radio buttons first, I'm building the skeleton first, and then I'm going to populate everything. So even before I create a text pane and the radio buttons and the buttons, I'm going to actually set up the border pane to receive those things. That way when I'm ready to display them, I don't have to go write the code, it's already done. So I'm going to do bpane, and we'll set the top, right? And what am I going to put in there? RBH box, that's right. RBH box. And then we'll do the same thing again. And this time we'll set center. And that one's going to get the text pane. And then one more time, we're going to set the bottom, not border. And what are we going to set it to? See, I like it when it fills it in for me. You get spoiled with these IDEs. BTN HBox. All right. So we're all set up to display it. In fact, we could run it now and it would actually show something. But we need to do some additional work before we proceed. Let's start by building up the text that we need. So where I'm going to start is by creating, actually probably even before the pane, is I'm going to set up a text construct, right? And you guys should have learned from your previous couple of chapters that there's an object for text. And could we just call it text? There's not going to be any other text on the page, right? New text. And can I just pass parameters to it right off the bat? Any suggestions? Well, one thing I can put in there for sure is programming is fun, right? But I could also put positioning elements in right off the bat too, right? And if I look at the book, I don't think that's 500 by 500. Anybody guesses to a size and a shape?
300 by 50.
The voice from cyberspace says 300. All right, I kind of like what John's thinking. It did say that? Okay, well, so give me a width and a height. 100 by 200? Okay. All right, I'm going to go with what Cindy Lou is saying. Oh, the worst thing that's going to happen is we just redo it, right? Okay, so, but then by doing that, and having kind of like a frame of reference, we can then start to choose where we're going to place the words, right? So if we look once again at that diagram, I mean, how far over is this and how far down is it? Top to bottom, yeah, it looks pretty centered. I'll agree with that.
It's gonna move left, right?
Aha, it is. The question is, where does it start? You said 40? Okay. Okay, so 40, comma what? 40, 40? Can we just try that? 40, 50? Remember, I mean, we're just guessing. The worst thing that's going to happen is we change it. Okay, the whole thing is 150. Because I'm thinking, yeah, I think what she's thinking about is that if this is all 150, and yeah, 75 would be that, but this is sitting inside of a different construct. So 50 is not a bad guess. Might even be smaller. All right, let's just deal with the fact that we're probably going to change it. Let's add our library here for text. Do we want to choose a font? Do we kind of have to? Wouldn't hurt. What font would you say that they're using? Arial? Somebody said Arial. Should we just try throwing that in and see if it works? Yeah, stick with what you know, right? So I'm going to do a set font. And then I don't know if you guys are familiar with this technique, if they did it in the chapter or not. Right? It looks like it recognizes Arial, so we're good that way. And then what about a size? Excellent guess. That's exactly what I would have put in. Great minds think alike. All right, so we're working with the font here, and once again, I'm going to pull in the library. Let's see, added the library up top. We got a lot of libraries already, don't we? That we're pulling in, a lot of imports. Now this pane that we're working with, well, that kind of goes with the text because that's where I'm going to put that. So I'm just going to kind of pull this chunk of code up to bundle up with what I already have. All right, so after we do the text pane, now we need to do what? Do we need to put the text that we created in? Yeah, we're going to add it to the pane. That's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to do text pane dot get children, and what are we putting in there? Dot add text. This is one that's in the chapter. Oh, not like that. Right? We're only adding one thing. We'd have to say add all. All right. So really, that's kind of done. One thing that I was noticing here, though, is they have a border. You notice that? Should we do that? Yeah, let's do that. It's pretty simple to do. I mean, there could be an afterthought if you wanted it to be. Yep. No, you don't have to. The reason that's really gotten popular is because it's so CSS-like, and a lot of times we write Java programs and it pushes out to the browser anyhow. So it's kind of like a common language, even though it's not exactly the same. It's close. Well, you could try it. That's not where my head goes, but if you want to give it a shot and let me know how it works out. The question was, could we set a stroke on the pane as opposed to, and I'm not sure if you can put a stroke on a pane, but just try it and let me know. See, I like this because it's almost the same syntax as CSS, right? But it has that little prefix in there, and you think it's what? Yeah, it's a little clumsy. But it would be exactly the same thing that you would do in CSS, though. So that's kind of why that, and that's why Java FX is like the new way of doing GUI stuff in Java. The old approach had slightly different syntax. Could I run it at this point and see what happens? I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to break. Now, what is happening, I think it is creating the border, but it's filling up the whole screen. But the placement actually doesn't look too bad. I can envision that we'd have our row of buttons and buttons. It seems a little tall. Let's leave it alone. We'll tweak when we're done. All right, so we got that part done. Next thing that we want to do is create a bunch of radio buttons, correct? All right, so to create radio buttons, we need to say radio button. Then we're doing a control space, bring in the library, and it probably would make sense, considering what we're doing, to maybe name it like red, yellow, black, orange, green. Naming conventions, a lot of people like to do like RB, red, right? Which makes sense. And you guys were probably taught that in your intro to programming class, I'm sure. And then, of course, you can pass in a parameter of what you want the label to be, which is what I'm doing. And since we know we're going to need a total of 5 buttons, I can just copy this. And the colors are yellow, black, orange, green. Yellow, black, orange, and green. Say that again, John. I can put different colors in there if you prefer. All right. Those are our radio buttons. Now, question is, where are we putting our radio buttons? Right, they're going to go in the radio button H box. Absolutely. So right here, let's just go ahead and add them in right away, just get it over with. And the nice thing about that is then we can already see them on the screen, right? And what are we going to do? Get children. And add all, obviously, right, because there's multiples. And then we're going to go RB red, RB yellow, aha. See, I'm wondering why it's not like auto pulling in the names, and now I realize why. Still not doing it, but that's okay. Let's see, black, orange, and then RB green. And then do they have any special positioning or anything? It looks roughly centered. Let's position it center. So RB HBox set alignment and POS center all caps. Now once again, since we have all our structural elements in place, I can render this. So I'm going to go ahead and save it and just run it. Let's see what happens. All right, that's pretty good. It's really darn close, actually. Right? All right, that's good. We're on a good path. Now the thing that you guys need to remember about radio buttons, that like when you guys are working in HTML, right? In HTML, the way the radio buttons work is if you want those to be exclusive choices, they have to be grouped together by using usually the same ID or name for each one of the radio buttons so that only one of them can end up selected, because that's the nature of a radio button. In Java, though, we have to group them. And if you remember from your readings, if you read, I know how it goes, so not faulting anybody. You have to form what they call a toggle group. Does that sound familiar? And let's just call it, what should we call it? Group. Let's just go group. Yeah, we don't need them for the other buttons. The radio buttons need to be able to be exclusive. We should not be able to check multiple ones because it doesn't make sense for what we're doing. Now, in order to have a button join the group, we then have to do this process where we're going to call each one, and then we're going to call the set toggle group and group. And then what I'm going to do is because we know this is going to repeat 4 more times. So, I mean, at this point, it's just kind of like a lot of repetition once you get the basic construct in place. All right, now we'll know that this works by virtue of the fact that I'm going to launch it again, and when I click, I should only be able to click one, and the others automatically deselect. It's all right. I think we're okay. Go ahead and close that. What's that? Yeah. You see, I'm not like too concerned about it. Yeah, we could. I could just put a bunch of spaces right here, right? All right. We were just having a talk here about spacing out those radio buttons, and we threw a 10 in this spot. Now we're going to switch it to 5 because that probably is going to be about the right number. All right. So you see now, yeah, that's much better. Okay. Good suggestion. I was just going to skip over it because it's items, trivial details, but we do want it to look good. Attention to detail. All right, now we have to come up with the additional buttons. Okay, so now we need to work on the buttons at the bottom. So I'm just going to insert right into this spot here the buttons. Now, of course, if we're just going to put in a regular button, because that's what they are, right? Just regular looking buttons. The object is button, control space, Be careful here, don't choose AWT. JavaFX. And what are we going to call this? BTN left. And we'll do BTN right. Can I pass in any parameters here? Could copy what they have and do this. Make that a right. Change that to the other direction. And I mean, these are going to be together, right? And now we just need to add the children, correct? So we're going to do BTN HBox. BTN HBox. Get children. Add all. And what are we adding? BTN left. And BT and right. Once again, we can save it. See what it looks like. Right, we need to center those, right? We can probably just copy this, tweak it a little bit. And here we're going to say BTN HBox. Let's try it again. All right, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not bad, right? I would probably make it a little less tall, is all I would really change. So we know that this one is the height, so maybe if we set it to like 120. $125. Yeah, that's pretty good. You guys live with that? All right, I mean, that's pretty darn close. So we're, don't necessarily need perfection here. All right, what else do we need to do? Right, we need to, we need to have event handlers for each one of the radio buttons and each one of the buttons. So that is correct. So now, basically, we just need to set those up. Oop, extra semicolon. Glad I caught it. Come back to haunt me later. All right, so what we will need to do is, I'm not copying all of this code here. I just want to show you guys I'm trying to find an efficient way to just type all those things in. And so I'm going to paste them here, but I know that I got to get rid of the set toggle group, obviously. And I know it's going to throw errors, but it's easier than retyping all those. And then for each one of those, we need to get an event handler going, and you guys should be getting familiar with this part at this point. So at set on action, we're going to use the lambda expression, and then we're going to have it change the color of the text. Okay? How do I do that? Anybody have an answer to that question? No, because you got to remember here, we're reacting to events, so we don't have to do if-else statements. All we have to do is write the event handler so that when we click on the object, it then triggers the effect we want. In the case of the radio buttons, all it's going to do is change the color of the text, right? How do we do that? There's going to be something to do with text, right? Yeah, I know it doesn't seem logical, but that's the way to do it. This is red, right? Oh, we got a problem with that semicolon there, though. That's not right. And here, you want to test it. We don't have to do all of these. Oh, we need the color library. Java effects. Save it. So, okay. Well, if you actually look really close, it's highlighting it in red. It's not really, it's close enough though. Change the color for the message displayed. Is there maybe, well, see, that's why I'm asking you guys to answer the question. All right, let's try that with these other ones here. I'm going to get rid of the comment marks and then paste in that code. So I'm just going to copy the set on action events. Just change the colors. Uh-oh. All right, let's try all of those. With any luck, it'll be perfect. Yuck. It is what it is. It's not perfection, but it works. Right, what else do we have left to do? Yeah, we got to move it. Now, for sure, we're going to have to call upon the buttons. So we have BTN left. We have BTN right. And they're going to need event handlers too, so you can guarantee that we're going to need this part of it. And then when we do click on it, what is it that's going to happen? We're going to take that text object, and what are we going to do with it? Are there any methods that we could leverage to help change its position? How about this one? And every time I click it, how much should I move it? 1 pixel, 5 pixels, 2 pixels. John says 10. All right. So I just type in 10? No. What we need to do is figure out where it is currently. So we would do text. Remember this stuff? Get X. So it pulls back a value. And then we will, with left, we will subtract 10 because it's getting rid of on the x-axis, right? So if that's the case with left, then right is really kind of a repeat of the same exact thing. And we'll just change that to a plus sign. Now, I know that when we go from week to week, and unless you're like writing Java all the time, which I'm not trying to make you do, but it helps. You might not remember that we did this a couple weeks back. Remember? So we're setting a new X position, but before we can set it, we need to know where we currently are, so that's why we do the get X, and then we make our adjustment. Okay, once again, I'm going to go ahead and save, and let me just see if this even comes close to working. Oh, it works. Is 10 pixels too much? Oh, that's pretty good. Yay! All right, folks. I'd say that we are successful. Can we call that a successful program? All right, so here's to the people that don't write their own code. Pause the video, copy the code. Anybody need me to move? All right. Scroll down a little bit. And once again, I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. See the rest of it. You guys know the same stage and scene stuff, so. All right, that's exercise 16.1.